I found a voice memo on my phone recorded at 2 a.m. with my own voice whispering, "He's in the house. I live alone." It started a couple of months ago when I moved into a small, quiet apartment on the edge of the city. It was perfect for me, affordable, cozy, and close to work. For the first few weeks, everything was great. Then little things began to happen. It started with noises at night, scratching sounds like something was trying to get in. I dismissed it as the building settling or the neighbors. But then I started waking up feeling disoriented, as if I hadn't slept at all, even though my alarm showed I'd been in bed for 8 hours. One night, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. There was a voice memo notification, a new recording that I hadn't made. Confused and half asleep, I played it. My heart nearly stopped when I heard my own voice whispering, "He's in the house." Panic set in. I checked every room, every closet, every possible hiding spot. But there was no one there. I tried to convince myself I must have been sleep-talking, but it didn't explain the message itself or why it was so clear. Things escalated after that. Items in my apartment would be moved around, keys on the counter, chairs slightly out of place, lights left on that I was sure I'd turned off. I started feeling watched even during the day. I set up a camera in my bedroom, thinking maybe I could catch something on film. The next morning, there was a new recording on my phone and the camera was unplugged. The voice memo was the same as before, "He's in the house." I couldn't take it anymore. I showed the recordings to the building manager, hoping for some rational explanation or help. He paled and told me that the previous tenant, a young woman, had moved out after experiencing similar disturbances. She had left in the middle of the night, never to return. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, clutching a kitchen knife. At around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Another voice memo. I forced myself to listen to it. My voice, trembling, said, "He's in the room with you." I ran out of the apartment, not bothering to lock the door. I stayed with a friend and never went back, except to collect my things during the day. I still don't know who, or what, was in that apartment with me. But sometimes, late at night, I check my phone, terrified I'll find another voice memo waiting.
Story 2. It started innocently enough. I moved into a charming, albeit slightly run-down townhouse a couple of months ago. The neighborhood was quiet, and the rent was surprisingly affordable. The previous tenant had left suddenly, but I didn't think much of it. The first few nights, everything was fine. Then small things started happening. At first, it was just misplaced items. My keys wouldn't be where I left them, books would be off the shelf. I thought I was just tired and forgetful from the move. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to a soft thumping noise. It sounded like someone was walking around downstairs. I listened for a moment, heart pounding, but it stopped. The next morning, I found all the kitchen cabinets open. I laughed it off, thinking maybe I'd done it without remembering. A week later, I found a note on my kitchen counter. "Get out," it said. I thought it was some kind of prank, maybe from a neighbor. I shrugged it off, but the unease lingered. Then more notes appeared. "You're not welcome here. Leave while you can." Each time, the handwriting was different, as if multiple people were warning me. I started locking my bedroom door at night. One morning, I found it unlocked. I was sure I had locked it before going to bed. That's when I found the note under my pillow. The handwriting was eerily similar to mine. I decided to set up a camera in the living room to catch the prankster. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. Around 2:45 a.m., I saw myself walk into the living room, open the cabinets, and place the note on the counter. The problem was, I had no recollection of doing any of it. Terrified, I confronted my landlord. He finally confessed that the previous tenant had experienced similar occurrences and had left abruptly, fearing for their sanity. I moved out the next day, but the experience haunts me. I still wonder if it was a prank, a psychological breakdown, or something far more sinister. Sometimes, when I'm alone in my new place, I find myself checking under my pillow, dreading what I might find.
Story 3. I've lived in the same house for over 12 years before I moved out. It was an innocent vintage house that lay atop a hill. We had a maid who usually cleaned our house once a month. She was nice, and we were close with her, so we were quite surprised when she said she was quitting. We kept asking her why, but she wouldn't tell us, saying that she wasn't comfortable with telling us. We were beyond confused. After lots of begging, she finally told us what made her want to quit. She said that while she was cleaning the house, she saw a girl in a white dress with long black hair that covered her face. We all had dirty blonde hair, and we weren't home at the time she was cleaning the house. We were super freaked. That night when I was in bed, it suddenly got really cold. I hugged the nearest pillow next to me and prayed that it would keep me warm. That morning, I woke up and found a long black lock of hair in my bed. The pillow I was hugging was on the opposite side of the room. My siblings pranked me a lot, so I automatically assumed they were messing with me. So I ran downstairs into their rooms and told them that it wasn't funny. They denied it, but I didn't believe them. That was until they told me they weren't home last night and just got back this morning. They were both at a sleepover with their friends. I knew my parents wouldn't do this, so I was immediately freaked out. Since that moment, everyone refused to sleep over, claiming that they would see a girl of the exact description of our maid staring at them. I would keep waking up with strands of hair in my bed. It got so bad to the point where I started sleeping in my parents' room. We moved out now, but I soon found out that way back, a serial killer lived in our house who buried his victims under his house, and that he preferred little girls. This still freaks me out to this day.
Story 4. I'm only 25, but I've lived through quite a numerous amount of traumatic experiences, which have led to my alcoholism and drug addiction, clean off drugs since 2020 and sober from alcohol since January. I've broken a lot of bones, lost friends in car accidents that I was in, been sexually assaulted in my childhood, and then told by my own father he didn't believe it happened to me, which killed me inside. We've long talked it over. I've been robbed by so-called friends, which led me to being homeless. The list goes on, but one memory sticks out that I think of from time to time. Ever get the feeling you escaped harm and death? I know the feeling all too well, and looking back, it didn't register until I was an adult that I had truly escaped. I'm from California and lived in various cities and towns here, moved from San Jose to Sacramento at the beginning of my 9th grade year. I believe it was. I was barely 15. Moving right at the start of the school year sucks, but I was used to moving around a lot because I was raised by a single mom as my parents split when I was young. So my mom was always moving us to wherever whoever she was with/married to at the time worked. Well, my good old piece of shit stepfather got a job in Sacramento, and he and my mom had been separated all summer until a week after school started, when they decided to give it another go. I didn't want to move, but I had no say in it. So school starts, and I was pretty quick to make friends, always try to be. I was big into music and skateboarding, so I hung out with the skaters. We'd go everywhere all over Sacramento skating, or at least I would, especially when I was bored. The school year rolled on, and I had a friend who lived just up the street from my shitty apartment complex. I'd run into this older fella who was quite friendly with me for no apparent reason. Despite being sexually assaulted a good 6 to 7 years before, I just didn't recognize the signs when somebody was too nice. I was rather trusting and would give anybody the time of day. Well, that guy, whose name I can't remember, wanted me and my friend Ethan, who lived up the street from me, to come meet him at an undisclosed location. I didn't think anything of it because all I knew was that he supposedly had beer, and that's the only reason I was even going. Funny how alcoholic tendencies show up at an early age and go unrecognized until much later. Anyway, Ethan didn't have too good of a feeling about it and didn't want to go, but he went with me. We walked across town to an old lot by an interstate bridge next to a gas station and not much else out there. There were these old rundown brick buildings with broken windows that are something out of a horror movie, abandoned businesses, or whatever they were. Anyway, we got there, and he was very intoxicated and talking to us in the middle of the street. The cops happened to see him and arrested him immediately. He wanted us to go in that building, and it never occurred to me why until at least a decade later. Here we are almost 2. I don't know whatever happened to the guy, but looking back, those cops showed up just in time. I don't know what he was capable of or what his intentions were. All I wanted was a couple of beers. I think I remember them saying something about him being a registered sex offender and having warrants out while being on parole as well. Being publicly intoxicated didn't help this guy one bit in all of this. All I remember was he looked and talked like Dwayne Johnson. Odd, I know, but that sticks out to me. Anyway, glad I'm here to tell the tale. If you've got shithead teenagers like I was, make sure you know what they're up to and they're staying safe. But I'm not here to tell anybody how to parent. Thanks. Be safe.